evening, everybody. This is Charles Horton, and welcome to this February edition of the BoardRoom. We have a great program tonight, but here's how this goes. This is not a offering of securities. This is an educational presentation. If there's any accredited investors that are present that are interested in it, they can talk individually with the presenter with the proper documents and paperwork and all. So we are not making a presentation of securities here. This is for educational purposes. Here's how the BoardRoom goes. We start out with 15 minutes from our presenter where he's telling us about his business, and we generally don't interrupt him much. The second phase of it is the question phase, and panelists, if you haven't been here in a little while, remember it's questions first, no advice. And then the third phase of it is advice. No questions during that period, and while we're giving advice, you're not allowed to speak at all. Those three phases go through the panelists first. Now, some of the best part of this group is after the panelists give advice, then we go to the audience for advice. We're going to give you a microphone. If you're watching us live, you can type in your questions on Facebook for us, and we'll ask them for you as well. But when it's, I'll ask them for you. If you're asking questions in the audience, please stand up, face this camera, and make sure you have the microphone in your mouth. A lot of people like to use the microphone and point as they talk, and then we're not picking you up and hearing you. So please make sure you have the microphone in your mouth. So that's how the BoardRoom goes. It's a pleasure to have you here. We are all about education. John and I both have been together in a CEO club for a long time. Mark, you were in that club too. And the one thing that we all have in common is we know it is lonely at the top. And you in your general friend group, you can't get people who you can meet, you can talk to about business. And that's really what we're here for. We're here for education. We're here for networking with like-minded people and having a good old time, because sometimes we just go late. So please, if you're here live, please stay, hang out, meet some new people, and get some business connections going. So tonight, John has selected our presenter, and he knows him, so it's more appropriate that John gives the introduction. So John, if you would give an introduction of our presenter today, and you can do it from right there.
You're in for a treat tonight. You've got a fellow here who you don't see much of. He's old school. He started a company 40 years ago, has taken it to a very successful level. He provides the best of the best to the best, and takes a very small niche of the top level. And he's a neat guy. To show you, he's gotten successful by violating a lot of your basic marketing rules. I asked him about 10 days ago for a brochure or a flyer. He says, John, we haven't used those for 10 years. They just come to him from referrals, repeats, and you'll see why as he does his presentation. And he's also been very good to my two boys. He's got a beautiful place on the river up in Oklahoma. He's let them use many times. He's got a super elevator out of this world resort in Crum that he lets them use. And my two oldest boys, the oldest one is going to be the pastor, but they, along with him, with Alan, and with a long-term doctor, have started a new church in Denton called Denya Community Church. The first service was December 23rd. We'll meet at 8 a.m. in the morning Sundays till 9:15 and on Thursday nights. And it's just a thing of beauty to watch it grow as he's made his company grow. So let me turn over now to Mr. Alan Sharp. Thanks, Alan, very much for being here.
Thank you, John, for the intro, and thank you, Charles, for inviting me here tonight. It's great to be here. And somebody, I think it was Denise, asked, is this your first time here? And it was. And then Tiffany said, no, it's not, because you just told me you roofed his house, so this is your second time here. So this is my second time here. And so it's been a long time since I was here putting on the roof, and it's good to be back, and your place is beautiful, and it's nice to be here.
Roof, so that's why it is, huh?
Yeah. So, and thank you to the panelists. It's an honor to have you here and to stand before you, and thank you in advance for your counsel. I take that very seriously, and so I appreciate your time and your expertise. And thank you over here. I know a night like tonight, if I had a choice of coming here on a cold, rainy night and listening to a guy talk about a roofing company or sitting by my fireplace, I would be sitting by my fireplace. But you are here, so thank you for coming for that. And I will confess to you that the last time I had this feeling about speaking in public, I was invited to a career day. And as a businessman, I thought that was a nice invitation, and so I accepted and I showed up. And it was your classic career day. The first guy stands up and he says, well, I went to school here and I went to med school here and I'm a doctor now and this is a typical day. And the kids were, wow, that's pretty neat. And the second guy stands up and, well, I went to the Air Force Academy and now I fly, private jets, and all the kids go, wow, that's really neat. And then they had a roofer. And I got the impression that the teacher was kind of making a point that, okay, children, if you don't do what these two guys do, you're going to end up like this guy over here. And nobody wants to do that, right? And so it just kind of, it was, and I'm joking, but it was kind of funny, and at the same time, it kind of gave me an insight into really how my trade is viewed. And we have said that we are the Rodney Dangerfield of the construction trades. And unfortunately, we get no respect. But it's probably rightfully so that it is that way. Because the typical contractor in the state of Texas, now we've been to Oklahoma and we've also done work in Florida, and we'll talk about that later. The typical contractor, the roofing contractor in the state of Texas, and by typical I mean more than 50% of the people who call them that, they are an individual who has a very nice truck, dresses in anything from flip-flops to suits, and is an excellent salesman. And he is waiting for the storm. And when the storm comes, he will go into his garage, get his magnetic signs off, put them on the truck, and he goes into an identified neighborhood and he starts knocking on doors. And he gets several $100,000 in contract, maybe a couple of million if he's lucky. And nobody knows this. Nobody knows that in the state of Texas, nobody is licensed. There are no minimal enforceable standards. And anybody can claim anything, and nobody can really prove them wrong. And typically, by the time these guys have contracted and performed and collected hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars worth of work, when they see that this show is stopping, they will go to the parking lot, they will take their phone, they will run over it in the parking lot, walk in, get a new phone, get on the highway to Houston, to Louisiana, to Kansas, whatever, and all their warranties just drove off with them. They may or may not have paid their crews. They may have or may not have paid their material bills, but they're gone and nobody can find them. There are some legitimate contractors, and we like to consider ourselves to be one of those, and their story is a little different. And as I kind of said earlier, nobody that's a legitimate contractor in my business really ever intended to go into this on purpose. Their stories are very similar in one sense, in that they had a plan to do something, but this kind of got them sidelined. And that's what happened with me. I went up to a small little Christian college in Oklahoma, got a job on a crew there, and learned a trade. And then after 2 years of that, transferred to the University of North Texas, and met up again with my best friend from childhood, and he had been on a commercial roofing crew in Kansas, and I had been on a residential roofing crew. We had talked, typical, like many of you, since junior high, we always wanted to own our own business. And so the one thing we knew we never wanted to do was own a roofing company. It was a lot of work. So we tried restaurant work, we tried concrete, we tried a lot of different things. None of it really worked. And then about that time, a professor needed a roof. I put it on. He had a neighbor that needed a roof, put it on. Then other people needed repairs, and so from the very beginning, we never really advertised. There was just this groundswell of people that liked us, and we were honest with them. And the people of Denton really responded to that, and we actually knew what we were doing, and they kind of liked that too. And so this was just for me, it was a short-term job that I was going to take until I graduated North Texas, and then I was going to interview and get a real job. Well, I graduated, I interviewed, and I remember being offered 2 jobs. One was to go to the oil fields of Louisiana and operate some machinery. That did not interest me. The other one was to put on a 17-piece suit and do some cold calling for Xerox. And that really did not interest me. And I was young and I was a workaholic. And I thought, I will just keep doing this roofing company, until I can find that real job. Well, I started having fun. Things started growing. It just kept going slow. And time goes on, and I got married, and I am a Christian, and I thought, well, this is kind of neat because kind of like John Brown, I thought I'm going to have 3 sons, and they're going to help me work this business, and then they're going to take over this business, and I'm going to step out of this business. And so these are my 3 boys. This is Lexi, my wife Linda, my oldest daughter Jenna, and then Ashley. So either I heard wrong or God had other plans, and in fact He did. They did, in fact, go on to school. They got married, and they're all doing very well now. None of them have really any interest in being a roofing contractor. 2 of them could actually run the company better than I could, but they're going other places doing other things. My business really took a turn in 1998. We had a storm hit Southridge, a small little neighborhood in Denton, and I had been in business at that point for 18 years, and we did what we always did. We just went to work. And at the end of that storm, a man walked into my office and said, I want to make you a preferred contractor for my insurance company. We said, well, tell us about this program. And he did. He said, you know, we have a contractor in Dallas, we have one in Fort Worth, we don't have one in Denton County, we don't have a roofing contractor in Denton County, and we want to make you that guy. I said, okay, well, let's try that. And what I did not know is that there were 12 contractors trying to get that one slot. And I found out later that he gave it to us. And I said, why did you pick us? And he said, well, it was because you were honest with us in the assessment of the damage and how you billed us and everything else. And we really appreciated that. So it turns out not just homeowners, but insurance companies don't like to be cheated. They don't like to be lied to. Who knew? Well, so he came on board, and since 1998, there hasn't been a year they haven't sent us several $1 million in work, and that has expanded over the years. And so our model is a little different, that when a storm hits, and in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we're rated for a major hailstorm every 8 years. This neighborhood is rated every 8 years for a major hail event. Typically in the entire Metroplex, it's every 2 years, one little pocket will get knocked out. And so we've developed a business model that goes in and works that model, so that when the storm hits Arlington, or it hits Grand Prairie, or it hits North Denton, or wherever, that's the storm for that year, and we go in there and we work that. And where most of these, what we call chucking-it trucks, these typical contractors that I talked to you about, are out passing out flowers, knocking on doors, we're filtering our calls. Insurance companies are sending us to the homeowner instead of the homeowner to us. And so we're trying to identify the projects that we want to take, and then we work with them in getting those claims resolved and some things like that. So that's when my business really changed. We started offering different products and services. We went from being kind of a a la carte roofing company to where we started all these other things. Probably the biggest one that really differentiated us from some of the others is we bought a $10,000 infrared camera. We can determine some things some other chuck in a truck guys just don't want to invest in or take the time to learn how to do and some things like that. So, and then we made some commitments to some different type of systems and warranted systems and things like that. And so we've been doing work for the insurance companies since '98. This Crawford contractor, well, I missed a word there. Should be Crawford in there. They're kind of an umbrella corporation, and they administer a software program, but the primary purpose of that is they have pre-vetted a handful of contractors in this area, or really nationwide, and they have told people that if you want one of our people, that we will warrant their work. If you choose this contractor and choose to work with them, then we will stand behind their work. And so that's where we picked up a lot of different insurance companies. I guess that's in the next slide. But what happened with that contact is through all the insurance work we were doing when the hurricanes hit Florida in '04, we went in there and started working our insurance contracts there. And in Florida, we made some mistakes. We learned some things. We went into Florida doing exactly what we were doing in Texas, which we were doing residential and commercial. When we went into Florida, we found out that it was a lot more trouble than it was worth doing residential. And so we then identified just commercial projects, and these are two of our bigger ones. Indian River Medical in Vero Beach, that was a 2¼ acre roof. Then we did a Pods warehouse outside of a suburb of Miami. That was a 6 acre roof. Those were just wonderful projects for us, and did very well on those. Yeah, and we got those through Zurich, Amica, the Hartford, USAA, Life, AAA, MetLife, AAA, Kemper, other insurance companies. These are just some of the families that we work for and work with through the Crawford connection. What we did learn from Florida, though, was when we came back to Denton, we wanted to focus more on commercial. And so that took us into doing some more metal roofing. We did a lot of flat roofs. This is a project in Denton. Did some banks, did some larger churches, some office complexes, and that's where I'm at now. That's my question. I am exactly where I want to be as far as my residential booking of business. I've got the sales team I need. I've got the production guys that I need. I've got a machine built there that has taken me 4 years to build, but I've got the best of the best. They can handle projects like Charles' house. If it's a $400,000 house, we can do that roof. And we've got phenomenal tradesmen that can do that work. We also have crews that can do a $2.7 million 6 acre Pods warehouse. That's the book of business that I'm seeking to increase. So that is my question for the panel, for the audience, is how can I increase my commercial sales? And then a second question would be officer compensation. I do have a business partner, and he's a 50-50 partner. Brilliant guy, phenomenal when it comes to production. And he and I both, I think one of the things that makes our company unique is we have a production background and an installation background. Most of our competitors, most roofing companies, they hire these guys that have been Kia salesmen or whatever salesman, and then this is how we sell a roof. Well, that's not the case with us. We understand installations and how systems go together and why this roof is better for this house and why this is better for this building and why this project needs this and not that. And there's some things we just don't turn down because we don't think the spec, what somebody has spec'd or thinks they need, fits that project. And so I have a partner, and he wants to maintain his 80-hour work week. Alan does not. After 40 years, the thrill is gone. And I've got kids in 2 different states now, 3 different states, and I want to start spending some of what it is taking me 4 decades to accumulate. And I want to go from 80 hours to 70 to 60 to 50 to, and if that's a 5-year glide slope, that's fine. But he and I are negotiating and talking about what is fair. You know, you have a base salary, and then you have what's fair for vacations. You know, if I want to take 3 months of vacations and he only wants to take 3 weeks, how do we work the compensation on that? And then at the end of all of that, with the money that's left over, is that a 50-50? Is that a 55-40? I don't know. Those are things that he and I are trying to navigate. And neither one, we get along great. I mean, we can go to lunch and in 17 minutes we can agree on $500,000 one way or the other on a project, this or that, or a piece of equipment or whatever. But when it gets to this, we don't know anything. We don't know what's fair. And then the last one is relocation. I don't know. We have been operating for 3 decades out of a very plain, simple, unmarked building. We don't want anybody to know where we're at. We have who we want, and that's it. This is about as plain as it could be. Now, 2 things I've always been attracted to are things that are unique, and then real estate. And then it all came together in one purchase. It's a long, silly story how I came into this. This is just 15 minutes from our current office. And I bought a 91-year-old, 80-foot tall concrete grain silo, and then the adjoining Quonset hut. I'd never owned one before, so we just bought one. And I thought, well, this would be a neat place for an office. And I thought, you know, we could clean it up, we could do this, we could do that. And do we have any A&M grads here? Yes, sir. My daughter's an A&M grad. I got a joke for you. Did you hear about the Aggie who won the gold medal? He was so excited he took it and had it bronzed. That's kind of what I thought would happen if I put a roofing company inside this project here. I just don't, I think that's too nice of a place for a roofing company when that has been doing the job for a long, long time. So probably a follow-up question later on, another session, other people, other times. What do I do with this place? Every building, every house, every project I've ever bought, I've always known what I was going to do with it before I bought it. And then I went and did it. This one, sky's the limit. It's an interesting story behind that. So I think that's it. That's all I have. Commercial sales. I would very much like to figure out a way to increase that. I don't know how to go after that. I've tried different things, and I don't know. And then you see the as we've discussed. Did I cover everything okay?
Good job.
You properly confused? All right.
So we will go to the questions section, and Mark, you're in the hot seat. You get to start us out. And I know you got several pages of questions there.
Is it okay if I sit down?
You may. Just don't get too comfortable.
The percent of commercial sales in the revenue number versus residential is what?
30.
30.
70% sales is residential, 30% commercial. Typical. Now, in a given year, it may go 80-20, it may go 60-40, but my average is probably 70-30, 30% commercial.
And have you found that the sales are local, except for the FEMA stuff?
Yes, yes, both in residential and in commercial. They are within the confines of the DFW Metroplex.
So is that symbolic of if you want to grow commercial sales, you have to get a new locale?
I don't think so. I think the DFW Metroplex has enough current businesses, has enough growth, has enough everything, that the work is going on, and I see the work that's going on. And it's just like in the residential market, the work is very unimpressive. If you look at some of the slides of some of the things my guys have done, I mean, we have acres of roofs where I don't know that we got off the line, you know, an inch. I mean, in these pictures, you can't see it, but because, and I'm a laissez-faire guy. I'm a free market guy. But what Texas is allowing to happen in the roofing industry is just disastrous. These people that are putting on systems, even on big projects, they've got some wonderful salesmen, but when it comes to the installation, they're either putting the wrong systems in the wrong places, or they're just putting men up there that just don't know what they're doing.
Are you facing any major litigation?
Negative, no, none.
And do you record your warranties?
Yeah.
Okay. How you doing?
So, oh, my mic's loud. So how are you acquiring your current commercial sales? What are the channels you're getting those from?
It's spin-off from people that know me residentially, typically. And we have a 38-year track record of doing work so that people, and I would say in the last 6 months, because we've not had any storms in almost 18 months, people have told me when they were going to replace the roof, be it a business or be it a home. I decided 15 years ago I was going to use your company because I saw my roof going on, and then I saw you do my neighbor's roof. And so they've kept my card, they remembered my name. And so we've got a tremendous brand loyalty. But it's just spin-off from my base, which is residential.
So do you have any other marketing strategies other than word of mouth?
You know, we really try to work our insurance contacts really, really well. We, in anticipation of storm season, which begins March 1, by the way, storm season in Texas runs from March 1 to July 1. I have, with the same Florida concept, started filling out the paperwork to go into Oklahoma. And I do not intend to contact businesses. I intend to contact my insurance companies and say, if you have an account, if you have a business, if you have a building that you need to have a license, you have to be licensed in Oklahoma, we can go in there and we can take care of that project for you. So we plan to solicit more commercial through our current insurance contacts.
Do you do any web marketing?
I'm an old guy and I'm not familiar with the term.
Like, do you have a website?
We have. It's very, I don't think it would impress anybody in this room.
It would, John.
That's all I have. Good.
In as much detail as possible, where they live, how old they are, how they get their kids to school if they have kids, their job title. Describe your ideal commercial customer.
He's in this room. He's going to be, and it's almost the same with residential. It's a man or a woman, a business person who is not looking at price, they're looking at value. And they understand there's a difference. And so if that would be it. And I don't know if that answers your question or not. They are looking at value. They want bang for the buck. And I've got this property, what's the best bang for the buck?
Okay. Do you have repeat customers
Yes, we do.
on the commercial side?
We do.
Okay. Is the commercial industry regulated?
It is
Here in
not.
town?
It should be.
Is it
not.
locally regulated?
It is not.
And where will your business be in 10 years?
I think it could be bigger than ever. I really feel that. I don't know that I'm the guy to take it there. I would love to stay around for 10 years, but you know, your classic life cycle of a business, you know, I think we're right here and we know what's coming next. I think we need a change agent, you know, if I could do a change. Somebody can take it there based on 4 decades of work here. But I think personally, what I would like to do is just kind of, if these are hours spent, I need a glide slope where I'm spending less than less time. Now, if we have a storm event, I can come back in for 100 days and do whatever. But I think it's in a position that it could really do a lot with it. I don't have the energy. I've got other projects, you know, and, you know, I want to start playing some more.
All right, and in 10 years, will your sons be running the business?
I have one who could. I have 2 that could. I have one we've actually talked about it. And she is actually married to a guy who's in construction right now, and they're doing very well. He builds, he's a project manager for a big construction firm, and we're talking about that as a possibility, so yeah.
And what would her title be?
I'm sorry?
What would her title, what would her role be in the business in 10 years?
You know, it's funny because when I started this business, you just had to do good work, and then it evolved in you had to do good work and you had to do good paperwork. Then you had to do good work, good paperwork, good communication, and then it just kept layering itself out. And so there's so much now of what our company does that has so little to do with actually installing a roof. It's a pretty classic case, I guess, of any business. But there's so much admin, there's so much material management and crew management and everything else that, you know, you could have the guys in the field that specialize in that. But I really do need a professional in the office doing all the communications, paying all the bills, getting all the taxes paid, getting all the logistics with any business.
Last question. Would you move the music stand about 6 or 8 feet that way?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually like the path of questions that we're going here, because that was actually what I was going to ask you about, was more about the succession. What point do you want to actually walk away from the business? How many years would you say?
I'm 59. I'd like to at 65 step out.
Okay.
Now, if it goes to 68 or 62, I'm good with that. But that's just what I have in my head.
If you had to pick a successor next month, does that successor currently work for you?
He does. He would be my business partner. And we've agreed to the basics that, you know, I don't need so much to step out. I just need to dial it back a little bit. I've been in 5th gear for 40 years. I want to drop it down to 4th.
Now, does your business partner also share the desire to walk out of the business at some point in the next few years?
No indications of that.
Okay.
I mean, he is the most focused individual I have ever met in my life. And I'm a workaholic. I don't know that I've met anybody that ever works. And everybody in here is probably smart and all that. And I never was. I was an AB student my entire life. From elementary school all the way through MBA, I was an AB student. But I will get up before you, and I will stay up longer than you, and I will work harder than you. And that's how I've been successful. This guy outdoes me. He's the only guy I've met that works harder and longer than me. And so,
thank you, thank you. You know, have you thought about other options such as selling the business, buying other businesses? Have you thought about any type of consolidation, anything like that, or options, exit strategies?
we have.
Okay.
And right now there's just a lot of balls in the air, and we just don't know which ones are going to land or if they should land. But yeah, we have. He and I both have talked about it. And this is just the beginning of the conversations, if that makes sense.
And then lastly, you know, I think you mentioned about how maybe your priorities might have evolved over time. Where would you right now say, as far as like your passions are right now, how much of that overall pie would you say the business is your passion right now?
That's an excellent question. Like probably everybody in this room, I always, as a little kid, I loved business. Started out pushing a lawnmower, and then it turned into this, and turned into this, and turned into... And so I love business. I speak the language of business, and these are my people. You know, I love to talk business and do business. And it's a game. It's fun. And so very much, in kind of visiting with Mr. Brown in the drive up here, I will always have that. I will die with that, because that's just the world and the culture that I live in. But I do want to have a second career. I have a gene pool that would indicate I could live into my mid-80s, maybe mid-90s with no problem. And my father was a pastor, and he spent his life at a local church, and that's what I want my second career to be. And so I've begun that with John's son. And so I want there to be more hours spent. I don't want to be part of a big church so much. I want to be part of a healthy church and a healthy group of folks. And that's my passion now. And so I feel that I have 2 jobs right now, and that is serving as an elder in this local church, and then trying to run a little roofing company on the side. I don't know if I answered your question.
I think it answered it extremely well.
Okay.
Thank you.
And real estate.
I'm sorry?
And real estate.
Yeah. And real estate is very much a passion. You know, when I was a kid, I just remember the men that I didn't even know what a mentor was, but I just remember as a little kid, I want to be like him. The men that I tend to pick were men that were businessmen, they were contractors, and they played in real estate. And real estate treated them, and I just saw that there's people making money in this stuff. And when you're in construction, it's so easy for that to be a sister business, because I know who the good plumber is, I know who the electrician is I need to avoid, and I know who the whatever. And we all just kind of have this honor code that we all just kind of work together and we take care of each other. And so buying an old junky house, you know, I bought the first real estate I ever bought. I bought 2 houses and 3 lots all in one deal. I was not married, and, you know, I don't know that I was 23, 24. And it was just looked like the right thing to do. And so I like buying things, whether it's a 91-year-old chunk of concrete. I like buying stuff and then fixing it up and seeing what it can be. And so real estate has been a lot of fun, and it has allowed me to build quite a bit of wealth, personal wealth, just kind of as a side note, you know.
On your commercial and residential business, is your margin, profit margin, quite a bit greater on your commercial business?
It's greater, but not quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
What percent of your business commercially comes to you via insurance companies?
Not so much. And that's something that we're going to, again, try to go after through this next year. Is I am personally calling these insurance companies and saying, if a storm hits Dallas, if it hits Oklahoma City, if it hits, wherever, Wichita Falls,
Yeah.
I'm in, if it's a business. Now, I don't want to go to Oklahoma City and roof a house. I really don't.
Yeah.
I've got all the houses I want. But if you've got $1 million roof in Oklahoma City, all of a sudden I'm interested.
What would you, in your current operations, what would you say are your 3 biggest challenges for the company?
I think it's probably the same as for a roofing company as it would be for Charles, as it would be for anybody sitting here. One is finding good help. How do you find them? And then once you've found them, how do you keep them? So that's number 1 and number 2. And then I don't know what number 3 would be. That changes whether it's a Monday or a Friday, because there's nothing static about this. It's just a house of cards, and you're always, and I own the company, but I'm there to unlock it in the morning and start the coffee, and many times I'm the last guy out in the evening carrying the trash can to the dumpster on the way out. So I wear a lot of hats. And
in your company now, do you feel comfortable with the expertise you have in marketing and sales?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Yeah. And even that is real fluid. If we were to chart, the company, I'm going to be over sales and John is going to be over production. So I've got a couple of guys underneath me in sales, and he's got a whole team of guys, from employees to subcontractors that he works with. But we, because of my background in installations and his background as a general contractor, we're very fluid. And we've done that by design, that if I need this sales guy to go to the metal shop and break metal for a job that we're in the middle of the process, they can do that. And we're cross-trained to do that. It's a very fluid organization. Yeah. And nobody's too proud to do anything.
Charles?
I was really curious about your sales, but if you were interested in selling, if you would consider that, and you said you've thought about it, do you mind going into a little more thought on your thoughts?
My thought on my thoughts is, I think the timing for me stepping out and the timing for my partner stepping out are different time frames. And so I'd have to honor whatever it is he was considering. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That if I want to sell here, well, no, you just really don't look like a roofer to me, and you don't look like you're working, 80 hours a week. It has to be a fit. Well, how do you find that, And so somebody would have to step in that he would be comfortable with, and we've not found that person yet.
I'm sorry, I'm actually talking to somebody who does a whole lot of commercial buildings, getting his advice, so I'm trying to get ready for the advice section with more valuable advice than I have, but I'll finish that in a minute.
Thank you.
Do you have salespeople focusing on commercial sales?
No, because of the price point of a commercial roof, because of the complexity of it, and because of the risk of it. That's either handled by me or it's handled by my business partner.
Okay.
Because you can make a lot of money in commercial roofing and you can lose a lot of money if you've sold the wrong thing and not identified. And we just quite simply do not trust anybody else.
Gotcha. Do either you or your partner get out there and do networking where you could find people that could hire you?
No, no.
Okay.
Our networking is typically done just by doing a good job. We just really try to do premium work, and the people, the general contractors, the insurance companies, and the property owners that have been around the industry long enough, they see our work and then they come after us. Yeah.
Okay. Go to the advice section now, and Mark, you've got the hot seat again.
Please excuse me, I don't have the 40 years experience you have. And I'm going to stay away from the commercial sales. I'll just tell you, I was involved with a roofing company recently. He felt all sales were local. But with that being said, if I look at your chart there that you drew,
Right.
and the fact of your words that you want to slow down a little bit, if I can use that term, the implication academically would be you would execute a sale. There's two other reasons for that other than your current desires to change your life. That would be the current tax laws. Right now, one might advocate because of the estate deduction that is not going to sustain itself if you believe that the federal deficit at some point is going to be a problem. Okay? The other thing is we're at a historic high regarding the multiples in which a business is turning. So what I'm hearing from your 40 years of work, you have optimized the business at a time when the estate tax laws are favorable and the multiples are at an all-time high. A multiple goes against the cash flow driven to drive total enterprise value. So if it was me, it sounds like to you, or it sounds like to me, that you really should sell.
Thank you for that, but how do I deal with finding, I mean, I feel like I'm a wife trying to find a replacement wife for my partner. Does that make sense? How do you find that person? Because he's my best friend as well. I mean, he's a very close friend.
Yeah.
And I don't want to bring somebody in that, yeah, it's great you've got money. That's great. But how do you make that work?
I bet, sir, but I could be wrong. I bet that everybody has their price, and I bet that the price would be sufficient enough now that he would at least go home at night to think about it. It also is what's in the best interest of your children for several reasons.
All right, thank you.
So I'm a technology guy. I work for a software company. I don't really, deal in this space. But the fact that you're wanting to target corporate jobs, but you don't have a technology strategy kind of bothers me. Our code authority has invested in a kitchen and bathroom remodeling company. And one of the biggest things that they need is technology and a marketing strategy. And I think that word of mouth is probably working great for residential, but for corporate, they're going to be, my thoughts anyways, I think they're going to be searching for different companies and soliciting different bids. And it's just easier to get on Google and try to find someone. So I don't know if are you doing this pitch to other places also? Is this like a one-time pitch?
One time.
Okay, cool. I won't do any pitch critique.
Remember, this is partially audience education too, so why don't you add a little bit
Sure.
in? Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
you're good, thanks.
So as far as like the slides, like for anyone doing a pitch with slides, the slides should kind of reinforce the message of what the person is saying. And the content on the slides, there was a lot of words. And if I were to actually read everything that was on the slides while you were talking, I would not have gotten the message that you were trying to convey.
Okay.
Also, I didn't really know what the purpose of the pitch was until the very end. I was trying to look for the direction you were going, but it was basically just like a description of your business. And then at the very end, there was the ask of how you could take it forward. I kind of wish that you had said, what you were looking for at first so that I could have my mind mentally prepared.
Thank you.
On the presentation front, the notes I wrote down were exactly what John just said. Starting out with my problem is, my goal is to learn, would have made it 1,000 times easier for me to follow the presentation. I'm going to give you my big suggestion, and then I'm going to come back and give you an observation. And my suggestion is predicated on the business continuing, not selling. Something that I see missing, and I think you articulated this as well in the roofing industry, is the people like to do business with people that they know, they like, and they trust. When I think of the roofing industry, I think of people I don't know. So
Yeah.
how can I possibly like them? How can I even trust them, right?
Correct.
And you got this pretty cool piece of real estate over here that you've just gotten.
Yeah.
What if you had and offered tours to elementary school kid groups for some kind of a roofing museum that wouldn't just cover, hey, how do you put on a roof, but different kinds of roofs, just gave some general construction education and maybe went into things that kids might find interesting, and then gave a tour of the silos at the end or something. I mean, and put a different roof on each of those. You'd have adults come by.
Right.
I think you might attract some of the people that are actually putting on roofs that need jobs. Some of the people you can't find. And it doesn't have to be big. Nobody else is doing it, so it's instant Disneyland in your business. I see the biggest risk to your growth. It actually came out right at the end, where you said that you want your growth to be in the commercial roofing, but only you and your partner are doing the bidding, and you're both leaving real soon. I think you have to standardize that process and mentor and train some people, and working with a company like John's here, develop systems that you know and trust can train that. Maybe it's somebody who bids residential roofing, but whoever, so that when they finish this program, they can bid a roof commercially, and they may not bid it as good as you, but
You're in the right zip code.
Yeah. Because if you want to punch out, you got to know that who you're leaving it to isn't going to run the thing in the ground.
Right.
And at the moment, I don't hear a way you can get out without a sell. The big observation, I think you viscerally know your customer, but I don't sense that you have a customer-driven culture within your business. Your description wasn't rich enough. And to the extent that you know your customer really well, I would venture to guess that the people that work for your organization don't know your customer near as well. And your ability to communicate who that customer is and how they're to be reached and how they're to be taken care of, and how you want to not just make them the customer that hires you to put on this roof, but the customer that calls you, 10 years later, 8 years later, to put on the roof again. And that relationship focus is something I think that you communicate to the people that you work for, and then they carry that value out into the field. I think, again, John here is the kind of guy that can help you build that. And actually, Tim Gillette over here in the audience, by having a regular communication, not just to your customers, but to people that want to get a roof put on because their house just got hit with a hailstorm. They're going to go to the internet. They're going to say, type in Roofers North Dallas. They're going to go to 8 pages, or maybe even just 3 or 4. They're going to see junk, and then they go to your page. And when they get there, they see an experience that says, what is your roof like? How to tell if you even need a roof inspection. Here are the 19 videos. Here's the 3 steps you can do. Here are 3 questions to ask if somebody knocks on your door. I mean, you can even set them up to be questions, that will point in your direction. Do they have a permanent office? Does it have a kids museum? There's just so many golden ways that you can reach that customer and communicate with them. And so I just encourage you to brainstorm and think about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to take us in a different direction that I think we've been to. Could you put that slide back where you had the questions for us? So something that kind of strikes me, so as a business professor, sometimes we get asked questions, but we kind of learn a little bit more about the situation. We wonder, are we being asked the right questions? The questions that you asked us were, how do I increase your commercial sales? How do I get involved with day-to-day operations, try to make sure that maybe I have better compensation policies? What bigger office should I potentially relocate to? That doesn't match what you told us earlier, which is that you're looking to dial back from there. The kinds of things that you're asking us, the answers that we would give you if we were to kind of hone in on each one of those questions are going to involve more time, not less time. And I think that something that you're hearing, a voice, I think kind of is a unified voice so far in the panel, is that if you're looking to kind of pivot away from the business, I think it's important to look at not only possibly selling the company to another organization, but potentially also maybe having your partner buy you out might be one thought as well. And if you haven't kind of thought about what that would entail, what that price tag would be, what the value on that would be, I actually think I would strongly encourage you to spend more of your focus on that than these. These are good questions, but what I see on this is these are questions for the next CEO that's going to run this for the next 20, 30 years to figure out. These are valid questions, but right now, if you're looking at, move into this other, I think it's a great, when you showed us that slide of the other headquarters you're looking at moving into, you've got something that's worked well for you for the past 30 years. How many more years would you see yourself working in that new office? Does making that investment for you personally pay off? Do you get value back from that? So I think that that's something I would look at. One of the things, in family business, which I teach a class in that, is we have a lot of cases where we have a first-generation business owner that has an idea. They start the business because they want to pass it on to that next generation. And then for whatever reason, there just isn't that next generation to pass it on to. Or even if there is, it's very difficult for that first-generation manager to actually walk away from the business. When I say walk away, I mean be able to hand it off to somebody else and not think about it constantly. So, the plea that I would have for you is I think that these are good questions that I think the next person that's going to run the business, I think, will need to spend a lot of time considering. But my advice for you would be, you've achieved this amazing success with your business. This is the first pitch that I've seen that's at this point in the life cycle. Mostly we have businesses that come in there very early in the life cycle. They dream of having the success that you have. And in fact, getting to that place where you're at right now is what really fuels them to go. So my advice coming back to it would just be, think about if the exit strategy is maybe the best thing to think about at this point. And does that involve selling the business? Does that involve your partner buying you out? I think that's what I would probably spend more of my time right now, because if you want to spend some more time on this other passion of yours, I think this is going to probably be necessary. I think it's going to be difficult to really devote 100% to two of these ventures at the same time.
Thank you. Agree. Yeah.
I tell you one thing that's unique and very, very nice in working with you is whatever ideas we come up with, you can afford to implement. Where most companies, you come up with ideas, they got no way to do it. So it's kind of a waste of even thinking about it.
Right.
And if you believe in it, you can do it. I think you need to bring some new blood in the company. And since the other fellows got operations or production, he's probably pretty busy, so he doesn't need it. But to bring you in an assistant with all the areas of expertise that you might like to have and don't have, including commercial sales, marketing, social media, and let him do more and more of what you're doing, so you in fact are stepping out while he's stepping in, and he's boosting up the value of the company because he's building revenue, building profit, building some areas that are important to you that don't take your time. And that's going to allow you to sell the company for more money to your partner, and gives your partner someone he's got faith in being able to continue to grow the company if you leave. I think it would be very easy and fast to put a blind ad on Craigslist and find you just exactly what you'd like to have. If you wave a magic wand and say, if I could choose anybody, I'd get this person with this experience, expertise, with these credentials, and I can put a blind ad on Craigslist and I can have that fellow for you. And you can, once we're convinced it's real, I'll introduce him to you and you talk to him and y'all work a deal. And you can say, you know, I think I like this, but I don't know for sure. Let's do a 30-day trial, 60-day trial, 90-day trial, and my guess is the guy will never leave. You'll find more and more for him to do. In fact, is when you wind up leaving the company, you might take this fellow with you. But I think you've been doing what you've been doing for a long time. And while you've been doing it and been doing it well, there's a new world coming on in the social media, marketing, all that area.
Yeah.
You need someone that's in tune to that can help you take advantage of it.
Agree.
And I just think that'd be a super thing. You're in a great position. You can do about whatever you want to do, when you want to do. Your only challenge is decide what it is.
Yeah.
And I commend you for building a business with this kind of foundation, and for the stability, and for the excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start with the ideas on increasing commercial sales. I've gotten a few comments back from my friends that own a lot of restaurants, and I don't know that restaurants would be profitable for you, but it's still commercial, and I think it's good advice. So one of my friends owns 250 or 300 Sonics, and he uses the exact, I'll just read what he says actually. He says, my roofer is a man named Larry Beck from Wichita, Kansas. He focuses on restaurants and covers multiple states. He does all of our work as well as Taco Bell's, Texas Roadhouse, etc. His prices are reasonable compared with local roofers. He works on volume and has created a niche market. He uses single-ply duralistic material, doesn't mean anything to me, which has a guarantee from the manufacturer. And then I said, well, what would you suggest for him to find new commercial business, not yours? And so all of what he talks about is finding business through word of mouth and reputation and hanging out at trade shows. Mm-hmm. And so it sounds to me, at least from his mindset, he's old school like you guys. I think you need to find out where your market is. If it's restaurant, show up at restaurant trade shows, start making relationships, meet people, meet the CEOs, take them out, and you're right, you are the person to do that. Originally I was going to suggest you get a salesman, but based on what I'm hearing now, like Daryl wouldn't talk to you if you were the salesman, but if you're the owner of the business, he is going to talk to you. So if restaurants isn't your niche, whatever niche you think you want to go after, if you want to go after big box retail stores, then be at every big box retail store trade show there is, and sit down and meet people and make relationships, and that's a long-term building business. I personally, I just had my last company for 20 years, and so I'm a little biased right now. I don't have family to take it over, and I'm glad. But the day that check cleared, it's like 1 million pounds of weight fell off my back, and I was so freaking happy. Yeah. I was sick of the business. Yeah. I was tired of it. I needed it to be gone. I was so happy when that check cleared. I suggest you, based on your time in the business and all, I suggest you sell it and get your partner taken care of now. It's never the best time to sell, meaning when you want to sell is never the best time to sell. Everybody goes through a cycle. I've been in the business I'm in 20 years, and after being in the business 5 years, I was offered about 5 times more money than I got when I finally sold. And I probably could have gotten 10 times more a few years later, but then I waited, and businesses go through cycles, and my business went through a negative legislative cycle, which took the value down. I'm lucky to get out with what I got, but I'm set well. If business is going really well, even though you don't want to sell, it's probably the time to sell, because it's probably a time that you can get really good money and good value out of it. I don't have enough information to give you feedback on officer compensation. Didn't get enough information there. So I do love after you've presented here at the boardroom, more than happy to go to lunch with you, sit down and go over that individual type of stuff and be able to give you more specific feedback. I agree with John and some of the other panelists. It is nice to see a seasoned business here. We have been doing a lot of startups lately, and so good mix. Really proud of what you've done in your business, and you've done well.
Thank you.
I'm going to take it to the audience now. So if you have feedback or advice, no questions, be sure you stand up, look at this camera, and have the microphone in your mouth.
Yes, you have to hold it close. Alan, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Denise.
And the panelists, you guys get awesome advice. And I agree with Charles with the trade shows, and you are so good at what you do and so knowledgeable. I can see you presenting at trade shows, and you say you don't like to present, but you are really good. And I think that you seem like such a trustworthy person. You're very passionate. I can see you teaching classes to people wanting to get in the business and meeting people like that and building relationships. I'm sure you already have relationships built now that you can leverage. And, somebody knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. And I think that you would be really good at just what you already have. You probably have exactly what you need within the relationships that you've already built. So, Tim, don't forget, see how I'm holding it? You got to hold it like that.
Microphone. So I looked at your presentation, first of all. Your presentation was very well. You had me when you showed the pictures of your daughters saying, I was looking for sons. Beautiful. You want to get into more commercial, I believe you need to tell stories like that. If you put a story into the presentation about what you want to do, that gets. Stories sell, facts tell. And that's just a speaker thing. The other thing that I would think is if you're thinking to move your company along and sell, I immediately was thinking, as was mentioned over here, the partner you have, ask him to go 40, 30, 60, you know what I mean? Balance that out. But to transfer it so you know the next generation carries it on, put down a written set of not code, I don't want to say code of ethics, but values, core values.
Yeah.
And if you put that in writing and you get your employees to start carrying that out now, including those people you want to hire, that's going to be the hugest thing in carrying the tradition on to the next generation as core values. And you've been in business for 40 years. You have them. You just probably don't have them in writing.
Correct. Thank you, Tim.
Okay, yeah, congratulations on such a successful business. A couple different things, and kind of touches on some of the ththings they said. I'm guessing your partner's about your same age, since you said that he was a childhood friend. The thing about selling a business, and that's kind of what the gist was, is that it'd be best if, yes, you hired someone to come in and help get that commercial sales going, teach them. But networking and that digital SEO will certainly help you. If you can get someone out into the community to let people know that you want to do commercial sales, join that chamber, go to those networking events. They can bring you the leads, and then you can go out and do the estimates, and then you can teach that person perhaps to do the estimates. Maybe they can learn in the long run. But you really, if you're going to sell it, you need to be able to step away as either semi-absentee or absentee. When you are the business, it's very difficult to sell, because when you leave, then what happens? And people are afraid to buy those kinds of businesses. And I'm with him. I tell this all the time when I do presentations. You want to sell in your most profitable year, because people want to buy a trending up business and not a trending down business. So if you can get that commercial sales going over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, as you want to phase out, and you can get that person in there to take over some of the things, and maybe they have the ability to then buy your business and partner with your partner. But like one of the gentlemen said, everyone has a price. And if you can get the right price, you can build it to a certain level, get the right price, perhaps your partner would like to go take some vacations too. Okay, let me see if there's one other thing. Yeah, there wasn't enough information for the compensation and the base salary. And if I'm thinking with that new office, that future office, the only thing I can think is that you build that and you make it really great, and you put your roofing company in there, and then they lease it back to you, and then you can take the lease income. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that you had a horrible, an inaccurate thing when you first started, that you're not a great public speaker. I think you're actually a very good public speaker. You have like there's this, Diogenes, he had this lamp and he was looking for an honest man. I'm not saying that I kind of peered into your soul, but you did mention the fact that there's no regulation and the roofing industry is dishonest to the point where you're almost ashamed of your industry. And so I, as a marketing strategist, this is what I would recommend you do. I would recommend that you become known as the honest roofer. This is like kind of the Mike Holmes is the Homes on Home. He's the contractor. This is what you look for. This is what an honest roofer does. I would, and I'm not saying this because I have a film crew, but I would film you talking about. You have like kind of a Dan Rather kind of a sensibility, trustworthy, feel about you, right? And because you've been doing something with integrity for 40 years. And that has to be celebrated, right? So if you go on, it would be great if there was a champion for the consumer in the roofing industry, and you became that champion, and then, oh yeah, I own a roofing company, because a lot of commercial, for a commercial roofer, and for we do a lot of work with like DDM Construction in Valley View. We did their marketing, so a lot of it is mitigating risk. And so when you're mitigating risk, that's the one thing that I'm looking for in a B2B situation. So if I'm going to do that, then what I would like you to do is go, and this is what you look for. And that was the advice that they gave you. This is what you look for. This is what you as honest, and then you get known as that. And I would even to the point where you're trying to pass a lobby and create an organization based on, because you obviously in your heart you seem to really want to clean up your industry.
Yeah.
And so it really seems to bother you.
It does.
And I think that that's something that would, if you could kind of become almost a business owner emeritus, but you are still this advocacy for honest roofing, I really think that would be a big step for you and a big step for your business.
Thank you.
So I owned an insurance agency through Farmers. And every time when I sat down with my clients, I would talk about, do you have a new roof? Because it's a huge discount on their premium. Mm-hmm. I would say build relationships with the district managers, because the district managers will then let their agency owners know about your company, because every agency owner, we had to have so many commercial sales. So I believe that will increase your commercial sales when you build the relationships with the district managers. So that's
Excellent.
Just my advice.
Thank you.
Because they're always, we were always looking for roofers. I know I was. So that would definitely help increase your commercial sales.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have you thought about partnering with property management companies like Greystar or Cushman & Wakefield, CBRE? Because they have a lot of buildings that they manage, right? When it goes through a storm, I don't know, like Dallas, I'm pretty new to Dallas. I don't know who the big property management companies are in Dallas, but a lot of these apartment complexes, Greystar owns probably 100 properties in Dallas. So if a storm hits somewhere in Dallas, they're probably a listing of the top 20 residential property management companies that own 50, 100 buildings, that you can become their preferred vendor. And the same thing on the commercial side. CBRE, Cushman & Wakefield, Knight Frank, I think in New York. I know a lot of the real estate guys in New York, but that's the same play that would be here. You just need the right presentation materials and marketing, the SEO, that they can find you somewhere, because they're going to run you through vendor risk management. They're going to run you through legal compliance. If they can't find you, they won't even do business with you. Yeah, your word of mouth here is good, but in that commercial space, they need paper trails that to show that this person this guy just brought up risk offset. Like, that's what nobody wants to get fired for. The guy that, you was a good reputation, but could we actually put the paperwork behind your name that matches and we get write-off for? So I would think from a commercial side, you definitely need that presence in those kind of contacts.
Thank you.
I assume you've got hundreds, maybe thousands of customers in your database.
We do.
Do you do any regular marketing to those people?
We do not.
I had a service business just like you, and my best bang for the buck was always just an email and a quarterly newsletter to my customers, a lot of whom were business owners. But either way, it always kept my shop at the top of their mind if they were ever approached or were ever in a situation that it required my services. I was always the first person they thought of.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what was sitting in their mailbox. It didn't matter what website was, or Facebook page that they ran across. They thought of me because I reached out to them every 3 months or so and didn't do anything more than, hey, here's something interesting I thought you might want to read. And that was it. It didn't have to necessarily be about roofing, just something they would read. They would see your name. They would remember you. And it just brought in more business for me than any other marketing medium that I did. It was the least expensive marketing medium. And like I said, it gave me the best bang for my buck. So you're probably sitting on a gold mine just with not tapping into that. And it's pretty easy to do.
Thank you.
So I see a book. I'm kidding. No, but really, I see you as Pastor Allen. And I see that you're passionate and you're with purpose. And so if you're looking to scale back, because I'm trying to listen to the story, I'm trying to say, what's that story that the book would be about? And so what you're saying is, hey, I'm getting older, I'm almost 60 years old, I want to spend time with my family, and I'm really, really passionate about my faith. I want to really, my second career is I want to preach. So why don't you go after the churches and because they are commercial, church is business.
Right.
They're big commercial, and then like all the mega churches right now, you got big buildings that God doesn't stop the hail from hitting. Does it hit the churches too? Okay,
so it hails on the just and the unjust.
Yeah. So that's what I would focus on nationally, working with churches and meeting that standard right there. At the same time, you're going into there, then you'll be able to scale up and probably bring a message, because Dr. Phil has got nothing on you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, Ellen. I agree with everyone. I think you did a wonderful job public speaking. I would not be afraid of that or shy away from that in the future. Congratulations on growing your business. I find you very inspiring, because where my husband and I are at, we're on our way to hopefully having the problems you're having today. Listening to your story, you spent 40 years, you're a man of integrity, I can tell, because you care about your partner and how his interest in the business and what happens to him, how you leave him. But I think that you really need to figure out 100% where your heart is, because I feel that you're trying to help the business grow, but at the same time you want to exit.
Yeah.
And so you need to make a final decision, and I get that, because you spent 40 years of your heart, blood, sweat, tears, time away from your kids to now being at this point. I think you need to do yourself a justice to spend some time and really rest on what your decision is here, and then and do the right thing, of course, with your partner. But like he said, you've gotten some great advice. I've even picked up some really wonderful advice through the crowd. And I'll tell you a funny story. My husband took me to a Let's Sell Your Business course, and I'm like, we just announced we're franchising. Like, we've got, I don't know. But it made sense to me. I take it very personal. You identify as an entrepreneur sometimes. Your job becomes you. And then going to the seminar, it separated me, and it's a business. You want to scale it, grow it, make an income, make a living, and then hopefully pass it on. And so I did learn that from that. So I think that might be what you're wrestling with, because your next chapter is you definitely have to get in touch with your marketing and up to date for this company to grow. That's something I'm learning too with our business. Very important.
Yeah. Thank you, Tiffany.
One slight comment I want to comment on what Ken said, and that was that the legitimacy of your industry. I can connect you to a couple different people. There's several roofers here in the DFW area that are working to get lobbies, and there's a legislatures in to get it passed that you have to have a license to be a roofer in the state. So happy to connect you to them.
Yeah.
And Tim has one last thing for you, and then you're gonna love it.
Building on that, I'm a branding guy. Not the honest roofer, because someone has it. I looked it up. The faithful roofer is not taken. Put your faith and your roofing together. The faithful roofer.
Okay, last one, and we're going to turn it back over to Mr. Horton.
Congratulations on your success. Do you ever have commercial properties, or that you're trying to get the insurance to pay for, that the insurance company is denying the claim?
Certainly.
So do you work with any public adjusters?
We do.
No questions. Okay.
No.
I apologize. Okay. So one of the avenues, if you really want to grow your commercial side and you are on an exit strategy, which every company should have an exit strategy, I would suggest that you connect with some public adjusters, because they fight the insurance company to prove the damage and make sure the claim gets paid. And if you bring opportunities to them, they're going to bring opportunities to you. And so that could be another avenue. Also, if I were in your shoes, I would pull talent from other roofing companies, people with experience who've already done commercial, who have been commercial salespeople, bring them on. You know, a lot of people aren't happy in this industry. A lot of roofers are notorious for not paying. I mean, you could find some experienced people who know the industry already that have contacts and would be aggressive. And I would build a commercial team and specifically have them be commercial and have them do the networking. They need to be out marketing and going after the property managers and the networking groups. But that's my suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Horton?
So now you get 2 minutes to wrap up. Anything you want to say from your advice?
I very much appreciate all of this from everyone. There's a lot of information here for me to digest. Some conversations I need to have with my business partner. And as I've taught some of the young men I mentor, typically the fourth thing I get to, when a crisis hits, I worry about it, I lose sleep, and I start asking people for advice. And about the fourth thing I do is I pray about it. So probably, maybe if I move that up a notch or two and pray. But this is wonderful, and I appreciate this, and excellent information. And I really do thank you for your time and your input, and look forward to visiting with you individually if that's possible in the days and weeks ahead. Thank you.
Give them a big round of applause. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure. So that wraps us up for this month. For those that are here, we're going to have some drinks out here in a minute. Get some food, network, cake. Good chocolate cake. But do we get 2 pieces, Tiffany and Jesse? I don't. Okay, don't get any more chocolate cake. I get a glass of water. See you next month, and everybody here, hang out and have a good time. Thank you.